Hello everyone. It's your big sister Sabrina here, back with another episode. We're officially in episode 2 of Sincerely Sabrina podcast. It's January 9th. We are officially a week into the new year. How do you guys feel about that? So let's just get into it. Today we're going to be talking about imposter syndrome and who is she and how do we get rid of her. Now, I felt like I had a lot to talk about on this topic, only because I had some self-discovery in 2022. And while I'm writing this good and high vibe, I want to, share it with everybody. So, upon my research before the podcast, I found this short little definition that didn't seem too complicated. And it's basically, imposter syndrome is a collection of feelings of inadequacy that persist despite evident success. So, let's break that down a little bit. My takeaway from this definition was basically a whole list of things. Let's just start with, chronic self-doubt. That's where those limiting beliefs come in, and you just don't feel like you're good enough. You don't feel like you deserve to be here, hence feelings of inadequacy. And a good real-life example of this is me being in pharmacy school. Like, what the heck? I had applied to 3 other pharmacy schools before I got into the program that I'm in now, and that really affected my confidence level because I did very well in undergrad, and I also thought that I had the skills that I needed to be a good candidate for a program of pharmacy. And when I got denied 3 times, let me tell you, I cried for like months straight. And now I'm in this new program, hence evident success. And in my first year, I, still had that self-doubt in me from being denied so many times that I was like, I don't deserve to be here, even though this program that I'm in now saw the potential in me and saw that I could be successful. And, I'm proving myself to this day. So that's amazing in itself. And I think imposter syndrome really can stem from like habitual terribleness. When you're in a state of, financial stress, business stress, school stress, family stress, all of those things can really weigh you down and get you in this funky mindset that kind of have a domino effect into other aspects of your life. And it becomes this whole cloud of what the heckness. So I really wanted to talk about like my experience with imposter syndrome and kind of like where I am now and how I got to be in this state of mind, I guess. So I think a huge role in my once imposter syndrome was like living with traditional Asian parents and having these super high expectations where they came from a third world country to find a better life, and they made this seed and you need to be the flower and provide. And I think them being traditional with, religion and education, and it's kind of a lot to process when you're a kid, and when you grow up and you're like, hold on, my parents don't really practice what they preach. You kind of have a different perspective, and then you're really confused because you're codependent on these two people your entire life, and then you're like released to the wolves in adulthood, and then you have to make these decisions for yourself. And that security blanket of your traditional parents telling you what you like and what you need to do aren't there anymore. You're kind of like, oh, okay, so whatever I do can go good or bad. And your little tiny Asian brain tells you you don't know what to do without them. Things are going to go bad because you were already in this, you were in this pattern of like bad luck, and you just think everything is just going to not happen in your favor. So there's that. And going back to like school, being in a room full of super smart people, whether they're older than you or just they have more letters behind their last name, or they're doing better in another subject than you are, I think kind of cultivates this comparison culture. Because it's not just with school, it's kind of like with everything. Is so-and-so doing better than me at this? Does so-and-so have a better car than me? Does so-and-so have a more aesthetic house than me? And this kind of trickles into, the line of work I'm in currently, where our boss is really the public opinion. So imposter syndrome can be daunting. Our human brains are conditioned to really think that we aren't good enough for other people, for the job, for the opportunity that we're waiting on. And we really don't think about, like, are we good enough for ourselves? And last year, when I was going through some things, a really good mentor of mine helped me with some breakthroughs. We stayed up all night where I just sobbed, and my gas tank was on E. I was ready to give up. I had been tossed in the tides, and I just wanted to lay in the road. But we're fine now, so it's okay. But basically that night, she had me write a ton of my limiting beliefs on a piece of paper. I'm not even going to say them out loud because I didn't want to like subconsciously speak them back into existence. So, if you're at home and you have a notebook and you feel like you want to have a self-revelation, go ahead and write down up to 5. And it might be kind of hard to think of 5, but you'll be surprised about the things that you don't think you're good enough for. So basically, I was struggling with a lot of things in my life, with school, money, my relationships, friendships, like everything. And I categorized my limiting beliefs. I wrote them down on a piece of paper, and she had me scratch every single one of those out, good enough to where I couldn't even see them. Then we literally ripped the piece of paper up as tiny as I could. Like, even if there was like a single shred that was still big enough to rip, she had me rip it. And then we threw it away in a trash can. And the next day, it wasn't even like I had to think about it. The limiting beliefs that I put on that piece of paper, like, I knew what I wrote down, And my brain literally told me, like, don't physically say those things. Because if you never say them, then they won't be spoken into existence. So that kind of just like helped me, and I figured out which friendships, to really surround myself with, because people who have the same ambitions as you will also hype you up in the way that you want to be, heard, but also they can give you, constructive criticism without it being hurtful, and they can really help you, mold yourself into the person that you want it to be, whether it be in business or school or music and entertainment. As a, content creator, when all you do basically is make content that depends on the views and the likes and the comments of other people, you're also kind of conditioning your brain to consume the opinions of people. And sometimes when you're in this line of work, my advice to you is just to kind of work out your brain. Do a little mindset memory on yourself, and really evaluate the shows that you're watching, the music that you're listening to, the podcasts that you're listening to, the people around you and what they're saying, because all of that can really touch your subconscious and affect, different things in your life. When I was younger and I was, figuring out who I wanted to be and what I wanted to be, and now I'm older and I can do all of those things at one time, it's kind of crazy to think about how much I cared what, my soccer friends thought about my band friends, or vice versa, and like why, certain people didn't think that I was going to be successful in said sport, said, music ambition, said whatever. And now we're at this day and age where I can play soccer, play flute, sing, be smart, also be into makeup, but also science. So I kind of had this, realization that like we live in this giant universe where not everybody is looking at your stuff. Only a certain amount of people are. So if you want to go do something, just do it and be yourself. And I know it's easier said than done. And I think also like helping with imposter syndrome, like really appreciating and absorbing compliments, whether it was like on a cover that I did, or I actually got a compliment the other day that my editing skills were really good, and like the old me would have been, I would have said like, oh no, like I would have devalued the compliment that was given to me and like downplayed the whole like talent that I have to offer. But if you really start like hyping yourself up, other people will hype you up too. Just start showing up as the person that you see your future self as. And I used to think that was like the stupidest thing I've ever heard, because I was like, how the heck am I supposed to show up as my future self if I'm this, little poor girl whose bank account stays negative? Like, I cannot show up as a millionaire because I know physically I don't have that. But I can tell you from my experience, showing up like you do have more money kind of gives you a different mindset. Don't show up and spend all your money like you have more money, because that's not how it works. I mean, show up like you're the pharmacist that you want to be, and you'll really start to exude this different aura, and people will start to notice this like glow in you. I also was asked a couple weeks ago by a couple of my regular customers, and they asked me if I was pregnant because I was glowing. But I think the whole like outlook on the possibilities that I can, have for myself have really flipped my life script. If you listen to me in episode 1 of the podcast, you'll remember me talking about my whole script flipping, and that's what I mean. So yeah, I think I have rambled enough. Hopefully you learned something or have some takeaways from this episode. Feel free to reach out to me on any of my platforms if you have any questions on different situations in your life that I might be able to help you with, or if you have a friend that you might think could benefit from this episode, go ahead and give it a share. If you haven't already, give my podcast a rating. It would mean a lot. And depending on the platform you're listening to, don't forget to hit the follow or subscribe button, and you can catch new episodes every Monday. Thanks for listening, guys, and I'll see you next week.